I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast, brought to you by the Pigskin Podcast Network. You can find them at PigskinPodNet on Twitter, or you can search the hashtag TPPN. We hashtag that as we go live, as do all the other podcasts that are part of this network. We've got everything covered for you: baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, wrestling. They probably got Olympic stuff. It's all there. All of your sporting needs are covered there. It is the Monday after the Super Bowl. We have officially ended the 2021 season. We're going to relive the big game yesterday. Matt, Dennis are here with me. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this somber Monday after the Super Bowl?
What's somber about it? It's a great Monday, man. I've had a great day. We had a great game yesterday. It was close, would be, so it came out a little bit underwhelming on that perspective. But by and large, I think it went like most people thought it would, unless you were wearing, Bengal colored glasses.
I mean, they did pretty good. They acquitted themselves well. It was definitely a fun game. It's been nice here today. I'm rocking my Von Miller jersey shirt. He was who I was pulling for, and made it extra special to see him dedicate his performance to Demaryius Thomas, who passed away. Meant a lot. The only thing wrong with Vaughn yesterday was I do not know what the hell was going on with his hair. Somebody needs to tell him, if you're gonna grow a woo, that goes like on the front, on the chin, not like on the back of your neck. But aside from that, had a lot of fun, a lot of good food. I was disappointed when my alarm went off this morning.
Yeah, it was. It was a very good game. I think came very close with the score prediction. Matt and myself nailed the MVP, although there's arguments about who the MVP should have been. So let's just jump right into the Super Bowl. The Rams did win 23-20. Matt, just kind of like, what were your overall thoughts of the game?
I thought it was an entertaining game. It went a little bit different than maybe what I expected, but that seems to always be the case for Super Bowls. I'm glad I wasn't the only one ready with the jokes about McVay team finally scoring points in a Super Bowl. I noticed right about the time I was making jokes about, hey, at least they're scored more points than the last time. Chris Collinsworth had the same thing. So maybe Collinsworth was stealing from me. You never know. It was, as has been the case with so many NFL games this season, poorly officiated in huge swaths of the game. My heart broke for OBJ. I knew he tore his ACL before he even hit the ground. That was tough. But I thought it was a gutty performance from Burrow. I think there's been a lot of talk about whether Taylor deserves a contract extension. I think he certainly does. What he's done with Cincinnati and turning them around has been fairly impressive.
Yeah, you feel bad for OBJ, and it was evident. I think that we've seen enough of those types of injuries to I think most everybody went, oh, that looks like it's probably going to be an ACL. It was your classic non-contact. And it was too bad because he looked like he was really going to have a really good game. Like they were making him, he was set to be. It looked like what McVay did was say, okay, go take Cooper Kupp away. Look what else we got, and they were going to go with OBJ. It was just simply a game that played out like we thought. It was a game in the trenches. Yeah, there were some missed calls, but it happens every game, and it wasn't. In my estimation, it wasn't like every call went against a certain team. There were missed calls on both sides. There's always going to be something, and honestly, the Bengals had 25 minutes to score a touchdown, and didn't score a touchdown. So, it wasn't a call here or there. It was. I think the better team won. I don't know if either team was the best team in the NFL this year, but they seem fairly well matched based on the score. Mixon looked good. The running game for the Rams was fairly non-existent. And Cooper Kupp did what Cooper Kupp does. I was bummed. I had Kendall Blanton and some playoff things, and apparently he hurt his shoulder and ended up being the Bryson Hopkins breakout game. I think Hopkins had the exact stat line that Blanton had 2 weeks ago after Higbee got injured, so I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, Burrow looked good. I think he's well on his way to being a premier quarterback in the NFL. It was nice to see Stafford get some due and get to the playoffs. Really would have been nice to see him get to the Super Bowl in a Lions uniform. That would have really been nice. Maybe that's the only thing I'm bitter about.
I enjoyed the game yesterday. I thought it was good. There's a lot of people I saw were saying that they didn't think it was that good a game and it was kind of boring. I mean, it wasn't as boring as the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl, if I'm being honest. Like, I still think overall it was a very good game. There were turnovers. I actually think for the most part of that game, the Bengals were the better team. They just didn't capitalize them, and they got the turnovers. I do know everybody's talking about the refs. I honestly don't think the refs had a bad game. There were two calls that I can think of that were big, which was obviously the T. Higgins face mask on Jalen Ramsey that didn't get called. He scores the big touchdown. And then, in my opinion, the linebacker, I think it was Logan Wilson, on Cooper Kupp, that did not look like holding to me. It looked like it was a great play in coverage. Regardless, if you take those two plays, they wash out. It doesn't matter at the end of the day because if you call the T. Higgins play, then the Bengals are not winning at that point in time. They're still down. So I don't blame the refs. There was a lot of that game left either way. I mean, protect Joe Burrow, or maybe don't call a run to your backup running back on 3rd and 1 and maybe get Joe Mixon in there on the final drive.
Look,
just
Taylor was hoping you would not call that out. That was
like the only thing.
A strange decision.
That is actually the only issue I had with what the Bengals did. I love, like, from the minute of that game, it looked like Zach Taylor was coaching to win that game. They were going for it on 4th down. Like, I do think Taylor deserves a contract extension, which is interesting because I think none of us were really that big of fans of Zach Taylor. Like, we all talked about coming in this year, he may be on the hot seat and may be fired.
He wasn't very good didn't look. The team did not look very good the first couple of years.
Yeah, and so what he did, I thought he coached a great game. Realistically, that is the only thing that I question. And again, him being a protege of Sean McVay, like, we had a lot of questions about what Sean McVay did in his first Super Bowl, and there were some decisions he made in this one as well. So I think Zach Taylor acquitted himself very well. I thought it was a really good game. I was happy for Stafford, happy for Donald, happy for Von Miller, and Odell. And so we'll save the Odell talk for when we get to talking about the Rams. Dennis, did you have a favorite moment in the game? You mentioned being obviously probably a huge Stafford fan for how long he was there with the Lions. Was it getting him to finally see him hold up that Lombardi? Like, was there one moment that stood out for you?
I love the throw on the OBJ touchdown. He was back. It was I like, to me, that's quintessential Stafford. That's taking the deep shot, going for it, and he placed the ball beautifully. It was an excellent throw. OBJ's one of the best at getting the ball when it's out there. So to me, that was just that looked like all the times I've seen Stafford just go, I've got to carry this team. Only in Detroit, only this time he didn't have to carry the team. He had equal talents around him. Even losing OBJ, they still had enough talent, especially given the running game. The defense, with the way the running game was playing, it would have been really easy for the Rams to become super one-dimensional. But the defense, I think, held them up pretty well, and it allowed them to run enough to keep the Bengals honest. But that was a beautiful throw he made on that touchdown.
That was the part that made me laugh the hardest, like when it was 20-16 and Collinsworth said something about, like, this is really on Sean McVay now because the Rams offense is completely devoid of talent. And I'm like, you mean except for the offensive player of the year and Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, the quarterback, 3 running backs that seem pretty okay. I'm like, though, let's not write the obituary for the team just yet.
I loved listening to Andrew Whitworth after the game talk about the difference between him and the center. He's like, yeah, he goes, strength has never been an issue for me. He goes, I look at this guy, I forget who the center is, Andrews or something, maybe.
Isn't it something Austin? He came from the Browns, I'm almost positive. Yeah, he was traded from the Browns. Yeah, Austin, I think that's Corbett. Who it is. Yeah.
He's like, I watch him and he's so silky and slinky and he moves and he does all this. And he's like, I'm just trying to get in front of people and use my strength because that's really all I got.
Matt, do you have a moment that stood out to you?
I thought that last drive that the Rams put together was really solid. It was a long, kind of gutty drive, milking the clock down. That pass that Stafford hit, they've cut it out on Twitter a few times where he just kind of fires it right between the defenders to Cooper Kupp. I mean, that was the I'm not going to let myself lose here kind of drive. And capping it with that touchdown, I thought that was a really fun moment.
So it's interesting. You see a lot. One of the things you've seen on Twitter a lot today is that Stafford throw to Kupp, and everybody's talking about, the no look. I'm not sure if people understand. When you go take your driver's license test, they do that peripheral vision test on you. It's not like he's turning his head and throwing it over here behind him. I mean, literally, it's like here, he can see Cooper Kupp right there, and he knows where he's going based on. Yeah, it was a great throw, but it's not like he was throwing it blind. I mean, come on, people. Peripheral vision. Look it up.
Yeah, it's still hard, though. As someone like your son's played baseball, like I talked about this. I did a rookie profile video on Sam Howell. It's going to drop on the Campus Canton YouTube page tomorrow. And there's a couple times that you see him try to do that, and I put the clips on there for you to look at, and he tries to he's lined up in the center of the field, but he's trying to throw this way. It doesn't always work as well as Stafford and Mahomes make it look, though, I think is the big thing. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks who could try that, and it's not going to look that. Like, Stafford looks like he meant, like he was looking at Cooper Kupp. Like, it was a perfect pass to Cooper Kupp. I think that's why people get excited about it, because we've seen it with Mahomes, too, right? Like, Mahomes does that one. I think maybe it was Kelsey in the playoffs last year where he's, like, going the other way, and it looks like he meant to do that on purpose. I think that's where kind of, like, the fun part comes out of it for them. But, yeah, for me, it was Odell as well. I mean, I talked about it on Friday's show. I was hoping that they would win to get him a Super Bowl because I'm still a massive fan of his. I think everything from the good and the bad, I think there was a chance he was going to go over 100 yards. I think he was going to be the MVP with the way they were targeting him and the way he was playing before he gets hurt. Unfortunately, seeing that, he comes back out on the sideline, no crutches, no nothing, likely torn ACL, And you can just see the emotion in his face when the Bengals score. They show the picture of him looking like he was upset, and Donald was upset on the sideline thinking this could be it. And then they drive down the field, and then that, to me, that moment, like, that is the coolest thing to me. So one thing I love about the Super Bowl is just seeing the emotion, and for like realizing these people have been doing this since they were probably like 8, 9, 10 years old, something they've always wanted, and to finally get to realize that dream. Like, for me, that was the cool part, seeing how emotional he was. Donald with the ring celebration thing. Like, I love, that was the fun part for me. It sucked obviously on the Bengals side of things, like seeing how shocked the Bengals players were that it ended that way. But for the Rams side, it was really cool to see that, especially for some of the players I was really hoping were going to get a ring. Matt, a lot of the talk was the halftime show yesterday. If you grew up in a certain era, those, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, that was me right there growing up.
Yeah.
And that was my age of hip hop. I loved every second of it. Now I've seen, and I don't want to classify like any, I'll just put it the way it was put on Twitter. There's a lot of boomers who are not happy with the way the halftime show went yesterday. I thought it was very well done. I was entertained the entire time. It's probably one of my favorite over the past recent years. What was your thoughts on the halftime show?
Yeah, I was super pumped for the halftime show. I like all those guys too. I did think the best comment though on Twitter was that 50 Cent looked like he had been hit by inflation. That's certainly, the one guy.
I saw a lot of 75-cent or dollar bill stuff being thrown at 50 Cent. Yeah,
I called. We were all geared up. We had some people over at our house, and it was a more serious football watching crew downstairs, and my wife and a couple of the ladies, and we're upstairs. They all came down for the halftime show, kind of watched it together. Everybody had a good time. I was 100% sure Eminem was going to do Lose Yourself, which, let's not forget, is an Academy Award-winning song. He is an Academy Award-winning artist. And when he came out and hit that, I knew the Rams were going to win.
Yeah, that was probably my wife's favorite part of the halftime show. That's like one of her favorite songs. I was kind of partial to Mary J. Thighs myself. I thought her performance was really, really good. It was like the creme de la creme of a certain era of rap and R&B music that they brought back before they were geezers. Like, they're older, like they're my age. You guys grew up on them, but they're my age. Let's be real here. They're actually a few years younger than me. I think all of them are. And so when they've had like Paul McCartney and The Who and all these guys that are just so old, great bands, great musicians, great artists, but just so far past their prime and their relevance, it just was kind of a bummer. And to bring this group was, they're still making music and they're still being relevant, some of it not in music, but they just kind of went with their hits and did the stuff that people liked. And it was really, it was a good halftime show. There's no two ways around it. I don't get the people who are all up in arms about it. It's like, come on.
People don't like that kind of music. They don't like equal representation. I thought somebody put it in a good way, for however you felt about that, is of how many people feel when, like you're talking about, they pull out some of those older rockers, or when they put country acts out there. I just have
that's
no
how I feel
reference.
When people put country. That's how I feel. I'm like, really? Like, I'm not I'm okay with that, because then it actually gives me time to get up and go do whatever I want, because I'm not watching it. I could not care one iota about country music. Commercials. Matt, you do a lot of the movie stuff today. None really stood out to me, to be honest with you. Like, the biggest one, I guess, I'll be honest, I wasn't watching a lot of commercials for whatever reason. Like, I was already bummed the Doctor Strange one dropped, because I didn't want that to get anything ruined for me. And then
so that was by far the best movie one. Did you hear the voice? And did you recognize it?
I covered my ears, so I did not try to watch anything, so don't ruin anything for me. I don't like to watch more than one trailer, so I avoided as much of that as I could.
I'm just gonna say there was something in there. I first of all, I loved Jurassic World Dominion. Jurassic Park is one of my all-time favorite films. I was 12
Right
years
there with
old
you.
when I saw it in the theater, and I know, sorry, Dennis. I was 12 years old when I saw it in the theater, and the way people of a certain age talk about seeing the first Star Wars movie and kind of those formative years is how I've always felt about Jurassic Park, and seeing all the Jurassic World people plus all of those original, when Laura Dern and Sam Neill pop up, it was hard. There was a little kid in our house that wanted to help with the Nintendo. I'm like, you got to give me a minute. I gotta see this. In terms of humorous commercials, I really liked the Alexa one with Scarlett Johansson and Colin Jost, especially that Colin left the oysters in the car for 5 hours. But it was weird. So many crypto ads, electric cars. I feel like when I was growing up, I don't know if this is just romanticizing, but it was always used to be some of the funniest, most memorable ads of the year were during the Super Bowl, and we don't always get that anymore. I kind of miss it.
Yeah, I think now you get a lot of companies that want the eyes, and they're not necessarily, they're trying to be a little bit creative, but they want to get their message out. It was cool to see. I think the one that kind of stuck out for me was I think it was a take on the Budweiser frogs with the 3 different animals. They weren't all frogs, but they were kind of doing that. It was like their Budweiser. They come out with some light seltzer or something like that, I think is what it was.
So, everybody had seltzer or hard soda. One of them looked like it was a grape soda, and I'm like, I don't want to drink grape soda on its own. I don't care if you put alcohol in it.
Yeah, somebody needs to do a Harry Buffalo commercial. Let's go there. Hey, what's in that trash can? Oh, just shut up and drink.
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to have to watch the Doctor Strange one now so I can know what you're talking about. I didn't want, because you know how I am with trailers, because I'd already seen the Jurassic World one, so I'm not going to watch any more Jurassic World ones.
But don't watch the commercial. They have the full Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer. If you're just going to watch one, just watch that one trailer. There is a voice that you hear that I would be shocked if you don't recognize it.
I think I know who you're talking about, but
I will. I'll watch it. And I'll get with you and Dennis and confer if that's right. The one commercial that stood out for me, and it was more just because it made me angry, was, and I assume it was an electric car commercial, was the Sopranos one, because the music started playing. Yeah. And I got so excited. I was like, "Oh my god, it's gonna happen!" And then I was just like,
"That was his daughter, right, Meadow?"
Yeah, it was Meadow. Yeah. So that's what I thought. I saw her, and I was like, "Oh my god!" She's going back. They're gonna do something with the series, and I see AJ, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Oh no, it's just electric car." I was like, "F you guys, F you."
The Sopranos are not driving an electric Chevy in New Jersey.
Oh, Meadow,
not if they want to live.
That makes sense. It wasn't Tony. So, anyways, the Super Bowl is over, Dennis, but there's still ways to win money. Tell everybody how with DraftKings.
Hoops fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. I'm talking between the legs, 360 windmill good. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Basketball Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. I got to be honest, I did some Super Bowl matchups yesterday on DraftKings. Hit 2 out of 3. And I'm kind of looking forward to dabbling into this NBA stuff. I got to take a look at the scoring and get it figured out, but I used to be a huge NBA fan, and it's what they say in The Godfather, which is when I think I'm out, they reel me back in.
They pull me back in.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN and bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code TPPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 or older, minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 1-877-8467-369 or text HOPE-NY. That's HOPENY.
All right, let's actually get into talking about the game, and let's start. Let's actually start with the Bengals side here, since the Bengals did lose the game. Matt, they came up short, but they did play hard. What do you think they need to do to get back to the Super Bowl? Because that's the one thing I will bring up, and I commend Joe Burrow. He talked a lot about it after the game, saying, we're a young team, we'll be back. But Steve Smith, I think, brought it up on NFL Network that he thought the same thing with Carolina. He was very young in his career when they went, and he never made it back to the Super Bowl. It is not a guarantee that they will be back regardless of how good that team is and Burrow. So what do they need to do to get back to the Super Bowl?
I mean, there was a big argument last year about whether they should have taken Chase or taken a tackle. And, Chase has worked out well for them, and they have some good young weapons. They've got to fix the line. The sacks were a problem against Tennessee. They were able to overcome. They were able to shift their game plan a little bit to get past the Chiefs. But you have to think that the 7 sacks, the constant pressure, the caving in the pocket proved to be a little too much when they were trying to come back and win. And I think that's one glaring area of need for them.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on Friday, the 9 sacks they gave up to Tennessee. They gave up 7 sacks to the Rams, and a couple of them in very, very even outside the sacks, there was a ton of pressure on Burrow. And so to think that they can keep doing what they're doing, I'd hate to see a situation where they all of a sudden get enamored. They're like, we've got weapons. Let's build our defense. Now, protect your quarterback. I mean, you've got a couple tackles that are pretty good. Jonah Williams is pretty good. Get that interior of that line. Go out, get some prime beef in there, and keep your quarterback upright. He took 70 sacks between the regular season and the postseason. That's just a phenomenal number. And if you watched his leg get all jacked up and bent around in that game yesterday, it looked like he was going to be out. And, he shook it off. You've got to admire it. He's a tough son of a gun. But we saw last year, sometimes you can't just shake it off. So if the Bengals don't come out, I'd say they need probably at least one first or second tier offensive lineman in free agency, and 2 offensive linemen with their first 3 draft picks at least. That's their biggest weakness.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and they've got to strike now while the iron's hot. I mean, you have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow all on rookie contracts right now. And you've got them on rookie contracts for at least the next 3 years with T. Higgins. So you've got to do something with that offensive line if you want to get back. I agree with what Dennis said. You've got to attack that in free agency. And then obviously the draft as well. Do everything you can. They're not losing much on defense and offense. I think even if they lose a couple pieces, they're going to be perfectly fine. They've got Joe Mixon locked up. Maybe they need to get a tight end, but I don't even know if they need that with how good that offense is. They are locked and loaded, in my opinion, on offense. They've just got to improve that offensive line. Dennis, is Burrow a lock top 5 quarterback for you in Dynasty? The ones I think, what would you say? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes are like locked in ahead of him regardless, but then outside of that, is there an argument for anybody else? Would you lock him into the top 5?
I mean, I comfortably have Lamar up there ahead of him. I feel like Dak is above him. I don't think I would have him higher than 5. See who else is out there. I have him over Murray, but I've never been a big Murray guy. I think I have Herbert over him, so I'm probably 6. Yeah, he's pushing top 5. If he can turn in another year where he's putting up 35, if he can put up 35 touchdowns, and push 5,000 yards, I think he can be that Tom Brady-ish type quarterback that, Justin Herbert type quarterback that vies for a top 5 fantasy quarterback spot without being a Konami code. It's really that, and while he's mobile, he doesn't run a lot, and he ran a few times in the postseason, but he tries to, he's not looking to run. There are a couple times where it was like, okay, I don't, why wouldn't I run here? There's nobody for 20 yards. But, I don't know if he's top 5 yet. I'd give him probably 6, maybe 7.
Yeah, that's it for me. He's a lock for top 10, but it's probably somewhere in that 5 to 8 range, depending on how you feel and how some things shake out. I'm going to be very curious to see what happens with Kyler Murray, because he's somebody I would currently have. When I was looking at it in December at the end of the season, I had Burrow 6 behind Herbert, Murray, Jackson, Mahomes, and Allen. But, sometimes the offseason shakes some things up. So safely top 10, probably safely top 8. But I don't know if I would say he's a lock for top 5.
I think he is for me. I comfortably have, I think, Allen, Mahomes, and Herbert above him. Although Herbert, I even have questions about because they're not bringing Mike Williams back. I think they need to bring in another wide receiver across from him. There's no guarantee that they do that. And Herbert doesn't run as much. I mean, the reason I would put Burrow there is we just saw what Burrow was able to do with, I think it's fair to say, a bad offensive line. Even if they don't improve the offensive line, we know what Burrow can do with that bad offensive line. None of those other pieces are going anywhere right now. Kyler struggles with injuries. We talked a little bit about it recently with the Instagram stuff and Cliff Kingsbury. Like, Cliff Kingsbury has done nothing to improve and help improve Kyler. So I don't know that he ever improves. I think he just kind of is what he is. I think he's a tad bit overrated the more we look at him. And Lamar has been up and down every single year outside of his MVP season, where outside of Burrow's injury, we've kind of seen what Burrow is. So for me, he would be a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty. Matt, are Chase and T. Higgins locked into the top 15 as Dynasty wide receivers?
Chase, yes, but I am not sold that Higgins is top 15.
Yeah, I probably, Chase is probably top 5, top 6, and Higgins is top 20. I don't know if they can, I don't know if they're going to get to that Jefferson Thielen kind of territory. If they didn't have Tyler Boyd, if they didn't have Joe Mixon, if CJ Uzoma didn't have a breakout game every 5 weeks, I think then you could maybe more consistently group, you could bring Boyd up a little, or not Boyd, Higgins up a little bit higher, but there's just enough other really, really good weapons there that knock him down, probably in the 8 wide receiver, 16 to 20 range.
Yeah, I have Chase top 5, and I currently have Higgins at 17, so he's close for me, but I think he does take a little bit of a step back. I'm not as worried about Uzoma and Boyd moving forward. I think it is going to be a lot of those two, but we saw how good Mixon was this year, and I think he's got at least one more year. If they improve that offensive line, I think Mixon could continue to be a threat, not just rushing the ball, but also receiving, which I think hurts Higgins just a little bit. Dennis, we've talked a lot about it. Obviously, the Bengals were driving down the field, likely to either kick a field goal to tie it and send it to overtime or take the lead. Do you think if they had a better offensive line that they would have won this game yesterday?
It's hard to prove that they would have, but you got to believe that if they only give up 3 sacks, that the offense has positive plays on at least 4 more plays. And that could have easily generated, points or first down. I don't know if it would have, changed the outcome. I feel like the outcome was still going to be the same. I just feel like there was going to be more points scored on both sides. And I think if the Bengals had scored, if the Bengals scored 28 points, I feel like the Rams were going to score 33. It was just, to me, that was what was going to happen, even with Odell going out. I think that the Rams were going to rise to the occasion. So I don't know that it changes the outcome. I think it changes the score, but I don't know that it changes the outcome.
Might have changed the strategy, though. They would have been, I think it might have helped them be able to sustain some of those drives. It's hard to say. It's hard to say how you play behind that. It might have changed some. I thought they definitely adjusted their offensive strategy against Kansas City to have quicker passing to try to protect that deficiency. So maybe that was some of the thought that they employed in this game.
I hate to say this because I was very much rooting for the Rams. I'm glad they won. I think Cincinnati would have. Like I feel like watching that game yesterday, and I'll definitely at some point go back and rewatch it. But in watching that game yesterday, and granted, I will say it was when Odell went down because the Rams looked like they were possibly going to take control of that game. Before that, once Odell went down and they really kind of struggled, like the Bengals defense was doing a good job of slowing down Cooper Kupp until he just went and took over the game in the fourth quarter. That I thought the Bengals were the better team for the most part of that game. If they had a better offensive line, they're able to protect Burrow just a little bit better. Like you said, instead of giving up 7 sacks, maybe they give up 3, including maybe not letting Aaron Donald just completely wreck that play at the end of the game, that they have a chance to go down, drive down the field, and win the game. On the Rams side.
And if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. So, I mean, let's be real.
But, that's
it's how you can't really say. I mean, you can say it, but I don't know that I think the offensive line and the game plan showed improvement from Tennessee. Part of it is, if you're gonna use those if strategies, well, the Rams had 2 less sacks than the Titans. And they have a much better defensive line. So the plan worked. It kept more pressure off Burrow. So I don't know. You want to – I don't think it – that's kind of a beating a dead horse argument there, I guess.
Maybe. It's for fun. So I thought I'd ask. On the Rams side here, I just mentioned Cooper Kupp kind of went nuclear there in the fourth quarter, took over the game. In my opinion, probably won them the game. But there was a lot of talk on Twitter that Aaron Donald deserved to be Super Bowl MVP. Maybe it was a little bit of bias in what he did in the final play to win the Rams the game. Matt, you and me had both picked Cooper Kupp to win Super Bowl MVP. Do you agree that Kupp should have been the MVP, or should it have gone to Donald?
There was no doubt in my mind that Kupp was the MVP. Aaron Donald had a nice game. So did Von Miller. It wasn't one defensive star. They had, there were 7 sacks. Each of those guys had 2. Each of them had some big plays. I know he made a couple of big plays at the end, but I mean, Kupp was the engine that drove their offense, and especially after they lost to OBJ, they had no Tyler Higbee. They couldn't run to save their lives. Cincinnati was keying on him, and he was still making plays.
Well, I just want to know, how'd the ball get there? I mean, Stafford, it didn't just miraculously show up. Matthew Stafford was robbed.
No, I disagree with that. Stafford did not play a good game. Well, and I will say one of those wasn't his fault. The Skoranek or whatever that guy's name, that was not on Stafford, but he did not have. It's exactly what we talked about on Friday, right? We laid this out perfectly on how Kupp gets the MVP. Is if Stafford struggles a little bit, still that's a good game, but Kupp is the one, and he did. I mean, that was a great catch by him. I mean, in my opinion, he really took over in that fourth quarter, especially they had almost taken him out of the game completely in the third quarter. And I was like, we were all watching. I mean, I feel like Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels brought up every time they got on the field, what are the Rams going to do? Because they can't get the ball to Cooper Kupp. And then he just found ways to get open there in the fourth quarter. Dennis, OBJ had a strong start, but gets hurt. Are you concerned about him at all long-term? And the rumors are he tore his ACL. We've not seen anything official as of right now.
Yeah, and it's the same knee he tore last year too, right? And
believe so, yes.
And he's what now? 28, 29?
The same knee
29.
Opponent.
He'll be 30 this season, this NFL season, 2022.
So, I feel like he's going to have moments going forward. I think he's going to rehab hard. He's going to come back. He's going to play well. But I do think that his best stuff is behind him now. And I think a lot of what's going to happen is he's going to have to be strong enough mentally that once that knee is healed again, that he doesn't think about it every time he cuts. Whether he can do that, I don't know. I mean, that takes a lot, especially when you tear the ACL in the same knee twice. At some point, I feel like you're going, well, if I do this, is something going to happen? We've seen, I wish I could, there are some wide receivers you see now, they just kind of catch the ball, and as soon as they hear footsteps, they're diving to the ground. And I feel like OBJ could become that guy. He's going to run out of bounds. He's going to try to avoid hits. Yeah, he's going to make plays. He's still going to be a deep threat. He's still going to have good speed. An ACL isn't the death knell on an NFL career like it was even 20 years ago. But I do think at 30 years old, his best seasons are behind him.
Yeah, I'm as big a fan of him as I am, and the amount of shares I have of him as well. I have him on a lot of teams. I almost don't even know that you can count on him doing anything for you in fantasy this year. I mean, if you're hoping for the best 6-7 months turnaround on that, you're already September at that point now. And I think at that point,
is he still under contract with the Rams?
No, he signed it was just like a free agent deal. So, because that was all the talk coming into this, is that he said he'd be willing to give like an even better than a hometown discount to the Rams to stay with them. I don't know that the Rams sign him, because I'm pretty sure Woods is under contract and he's going to be back sooner from his ACL at this point. And I realistically think if Odell is not going to be ready till September, he may start out on PUP, which means you're not getting him till week 7 or week 8. Now, maybe he stays with the Rams as they're trying to make another run and he comes back. But at this point, I think I don't know that he's ever going to be anything for you again in fantasy. I mean, at that point, you're talking about waiting till 2023. He's going to be 31, going on 32. Like, I don't know, maybe a wide receiver 4 at that point. I don't know that he would be with the Rams.
Adam Thielen was very viable. He's going to be 34 or 35 now. Adam Thielen has played well as he's gotten older. I feel like he's going to be you have to view him as a wide receiver 3 at best right now going forward. You're going to get some wide receiver 1 games out of him. And depending on where he lands, it's he's got the ring now. He's made a bunch of money. I don't know how he's done as far as conserving his money, but I feel like he could just walk away now. He's having babies now, but I feel like he's got the competitive desire. He hasn't built the off-season stuff like Tom Brady has. You don't see a lot. I mean, maybe he has, but with Marshawn Lynch, you heard about things he was doing off the field. And what he was trying to build to get his career ready for post-football. You never really heard about that with Beckham. And he's always been kind of flashy, and that's some of the stuff that's got him in trouble. So he may feel like he needs to play a few more years to get the money, to get himself ready. Maybe, but I view him like a wide receiver 3-4 right now.
Yeah, I think if he wants to go into something off of the football field, I think he can. He does a lot of streaming stuff, and he's very good at that. I think he's a very personable person. He's a guy that I think would be perfectly fine on TV. And I agree with you. I mean, he's having a baby. There was talk before the Super Bowl. I know he was. I think it was during Radio Row, whatever they asked him, and his fiance was close to giving birth, and he even mentioned, he's like, if she starts giving birth in the Super Bowl, I'm gone. I don't want to miss the birth of my child. So clearly that means a lot to him. And I do think part of him may even be thinking that he may be done with football with the emotion he had on his face when he realized he won the Super Bowl, because that is all he was missing, was that Super Bowl ring. Speaking of which, we saw Aaron Donald say a lot of that before as well, before the game. Hey, if I get the Super Bowl ring, he may retire. That may be it for him. Matt, if Aaron Donald is done, has been in the league for 7 years, if I'm remembering correctly, came out in 2014, is he a lock first ballot Hall of Famer?
I think he gets into the Hall of Fame, but I don't know if I feel like he's done enough that he would necessarily be a lock. You are correct. He came in 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This was his 8th season. He has 98 sacks. I mean, that's pretty impressive. After seeing like DeMarcus Ware miss this year, and you can never quite tell. I think he would certainly get in. It might depend on who was up against him. I do feel like he's probably one of the most dominant defensive players for the last few years, especially given his position.
So ask yourself, is Aaron Donald the best player at his position? Would you say that throughout his career? How many years? It's not been just a year where throughout virtually his entire 8-year career, he's been considered the best or one of the best at his position. I think if he retired today, people would be making the argument about not waiting like they do with Tom Brady. Now, that's not what they should do. But I think when people look at him right now, if he walked away right now, they'd say he's up there with the Joe Greens and the Merlin Olsons and those defensive tackles, that he belongs. If he's not in that category, he's just below it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He's been, I think, one of the best defensive players for at least 6 of the 8 years he's played, if not 7 or 8. I don't remember if he was as dominant as a rookie. I'll be honest. I can't really remember, but I feel like as long as I can remember, it's been Aaron Donald.
He won Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Right, but I don't remember him being like, and again, this is 8 years ago. I can barely remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday. Like, I remember what Micah Parsons did this year as Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I feel like I'm going to remember that. I don't exactly remember how good Donald was as a rookie, but from what I can remember, practically his whole career, he has been the best defensive player talked about every single year. Has been number 1 in the top 100 every single year. The one thing I worry about he is a lock first ballot Hall of Famer for me, but I don't vote. And that's my thing. Is like, I wonder if enough people, because we see it with all these Hall of Fames, they hold it against some of these guys when they don't do certain things. And I wonder if they will hold it against him because he didn't play for 10 years and they don't let him in first ballot. But I think he should be.
Donald started 12 games his rookie season. He had 2 forced fumbles, 9 sacks, 48 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 13 QB hits. I mean, he was pretty dominant right from the get-go. I mean, in 18, he had 20 and a half sacks. He's only had 2 seasons where he had single-digit sacks. He's been, let's see, last year was his low in tackles for loss with 14. I mean, he's been dominant his whole career. If he didn't make first ballot, I mean, it's.
I agree with you. As I said, I just because I don't remember doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just don't remember what it was like as a rookie. But I know as far back as I can remember, he's been the best defensive player in the NFL.
And I mean, he did have that the last time they went to the Super Bowl, 20 and a half sacks, which so that's what I was trying to think. I think the way the Rams play, sometimes it looks like he's on the end, but if you're really considering him a defensive tackle, having 98 sacks from interior defensive line is incredible.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame, Matt Stafford now has as many Super Bowl rings as Aaron Rodgers. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, Dennis?
No, not yet. He's a really good quarterback. He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, that's probably fair. We've seen players who spent majority of their career on losing teams be able to get in, but we've seen them will teams to the playoffs. This is the first time in Matthew Stafford's career he's ever won a playoff game. So I think it's going to take more than a good 4-game run.
I mean, he's only had 2 seasons with 30 touchdown passes. I mean, Stafford is a really good quarterback, and he's got a great arm, and he makes some amazing throws. But he isn't. I think you saw this year Joe Burrow do with the Bengals what Matt Stafford couldn't do with Megatron and the Lions.
Yeah, I would say he's going to have to string together at least 3 more good years before I put him in there.
If touchdowns and
if he can get 1 more Super Bowl and put together 3 more good years, I think he'll be like with that Eli Manning conversation, and he'll likely get in. But right now, I'm with you. I don't think that he would be in the Hall of Fame. Dennis, we are entering the off season here. What is a tool everybody can use to help improve their dynasty teams?
Well, they can listen to our podcast. That's a start. The Dynasty GM from dynastynerds.com. Do you want to dominate your dynasty league? The Dynasty GM is the tool you need to get the job done. It integrates seamlessly with your MFL, Sleeper, Flea Flicker, and FFPC leagues. Use the league analyzer to identify your team's strengths and weaknesses. Use the trade calculator to put together league-winning deals. The player shares tracker to keep track of your rostership. You know what that is? That's a 1. You know how many shares of Odell Beckham I have? I have 1. Now let's not talk about Brian Edwards. Use code Roundtable for 15% off a monthly or annual subscription. Bundle the Dynasty GM with the Nerd Herd to save even more.
All right, we are going to we had a playoff competition that we
the show's been good, guys. I really enjoyed it. I guess it's time for us to go.
Yeah, I forgot the playoff thing. So playoff competition, announce the winner. It's not winter. The winner here, Matt.
I don't know. Did you see my team? It was pretty cold.
Yeah. So among the 3 of us, congratulations, Matt. You finished the best. I will pull our point total in a minute. But the winner, we had a pretty decent competition, only 0.2 points separated second and third. But the winner, Eric Jonathan, he had about a 20-point victory. The next closest to him had 554 points, and that was Derek Brown. He had 575.5 points. Picked Cooper Kupp, like almost all the rest of us. His team, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, Damian Harris, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert, the Titans defense special team. He obviously knew the Titans were going to eliminate themselves, and Matt Prater.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to Eric. He is in our Discord. I'm actually messaging him right now. Congratulations to me for, I guess, doing.
Yeah. So here, I'll give our.
I saw mine. I think I had 200 something.
So you finished with 542.16 points, which wasn't bad. I finished 521.32 points. And Dennis finished with 507.61 points. So I'd say we all cracked 500.
At least
could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot
Same
worse.
Face. Woo!
Yeah. All right. So that will do it for us today. We'll be back on Friday to start off season stuff. We haven't even discussed what we're going to start talking about yet, but we'll surprise you guys with that on Friday. We will definitely talk a little maybe bold predictions or a little prediction as we head into the 2022-2023 season. Kind of way too early predictions for that among a ton of other offseason content. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weeks, and we will talk to you guys